Hello, everyone. Welcome to Somebody's Got to Do It. This is Kamal Mahako, and with me in studio, I have Imani Blythe, actually, Jamelia Imani Blythe. She's a founder and managing director of High Flyer Educational Services, a Jamaican alternative education organization. She has taught at the Charlie Smith High School and the Heart Trust NTA, where she served as an entrepreneurship and communication instructor. Miss Blythe is known for her selfless advocacy work within the homeschool community, where she founded the first and largest online Jamaican homeschool association, Homeschool Jamaica, of which she is a charter member of the Jamaica Association of Homeschoolers. Jamelia Imani Blythe, welcome and thank you for sharing with us.
Thank you so much for having me, Kamal. It's a pleasure as usual.
Yes, same here. It's much of a pleasure to have you. I can relate being an educator myself and a homeschooler myself. All right, so I'm going to need you to unpack some of that information that I just read. But first and foremost, give us a brief history of where in Jamaica you're from and what was it like growing up.
All right. So I grew up in Lawrence Tavern, that is in West Rural St. Andrew, and grew up with both parents. My father was a soldier, my mom was a nurse. And, back in those days, she did midwifery. So she was a midwife, to be specific. So,
Okay.
back in those days, you didn't have a lot of people owning cars. And so I grew up with seeing my mom outside of the home a lot. It doesn't matter what time of the night, somebody's going to call up a nurse.
Mm-hmm.
So from very early, I knew what it meant to serve people in terms of my mom. And she also walked to work. So, of course, she was the head nurse at the community health center, right, in my community as well. That's King Weston. And so from early on, I knew what it meant to serve people. My father, he's, very kind, very loving gentleman. Um, I'm the last of 10.
Oh, you're the
So,
baby.
yes, I'm the baby. Fortunately, thank God, the baby. So I grew up seeing my sisters, and my brother, just serving, helping people. We're just known for helping people. So it's just a part of how I was brought up, always helping, always advocating.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I went to the Queen's,
High school,
um, yes.
Queen's High School.
And after, no, first I went to Lawrence Tavern Primary School, and then I went to Queen's, and I went to University of the West Indies to do my first degree. And now I am at the University of Technology.
So that
I'm a mom
first
of
degree,
one.
okay, so you have a son, daughter, or
Yes, I have a son,
son.
Seth.
All right, sick. That first degree was in what at UA?
So the first degree was in English,
Okay.
but
That's the
that's
English language education.
English language and literature. Yes. So, um, but that's not really what I wanted to do. Back in those days. So I'm aging myself.
Yeah, you're
The
talking
faculty
about
of
back in
law.
those days. I'm the one
Yeah.
who's supposed to be saying back in
So
those
it
days.
was very hard to get into law back then. Now it's way easier. So I got into humanities and I pursued a BA in English literature. But
Okay.
my real love, my first love was actually law
All right. Is that what you taught at Charlie Smith High, English?
and business. So how I got into business, how I got into teaching business now. When I got the teaching job at Charlie Smith, about the October before, my sister said to me, since you already have a degree in English, why not do something in teaching so you can become a trained teacher? Not knowing that, I would have eventually gone into the teaching because she had done it before. So
Okay.
she said to me, just do it. So she actually signed me up and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I got into, then I got a job. So when I got a job at Charlie Smith, I recognized that it actually does help being a trained teacher because at the time I was being trained, I was being paid as a pre-trained teacher. So even though I had a degree, I
Yeah.
was getting probably the same pay like a diploma trained teacher. So luckily for me, I followed my sister's advice and I did that. So that's how I got into teaching. So I always say I became a teacher by default.
Same here. And
Yes.
how long were you at Charlie Smith?
I was there for a year and a half. But trust me, what I learned from teaching at an inner city school a year and a half, that's like 10
I
years
was just about
experience.
to ask that question because
Yes, to
where's
be
Charlie
honest,
Smith? Remind us
John
where.
Smith, John Smith is located. Now remember, I'm a rural girl.
Yeah.
I went to a traditional high school, which is situated in the uptown of Jamaica. That's Constant Spring Road. And then, of course, going to Charlie Smith, which is located in Trenchtown area, right?
Mm.
That's off College. I can't remember the exact address right now, but off
In
College
the
Smith.
heart of town. In the heart
Yes.
of town.
So now, growing up as a rural girl, you would hear about these places in songs, Trenchtown Rock,
Yeah,
and all those
that's
things.
where Bob
Bob
Marley
Marley.
lived for
Yes,
much of his
right.
Mhm.
So for me now, and at that time, I just came back to Jamaica, with my son because I actually was going to stay abroad and then I came home with my son. One, I wanted him to grow up here. And two, I just got a prompting that I needed to be with my parents.
Okay.
And so I ended up coming back home because I really wanted to stay to pursue my law degree there.
Mm.
And it so happened that 3 years later, both my parents died 2 months apart.
Oh.
So I am very happy that I took that prompting
Mm.
and I moved back home. But when I went to Charlie Smith, it was a culture shock for me, as a rural girl.
And quite
Um,
petite.
yes, and quite petite, very yes, right? So nobody wanted me to go there to teach because one, I'm a new mom, you little
Mm-hmm.
and pretty, them are gonna reappear all sorts of
Mm-hmm.
negative things.
Yeah.
But the truth is, they take care of you. They are very loving people, in
And
spite of what you
by they, you
hear.
mean the students, the
The
faculty,
students,
the
community
parents.
members,
Mm-hmm.
yes, the students, the parents, the community members. Remember, you come in as an educator. You're coming in to help their children.
Yes.
And I remember being there every time I would travel. I would take back gifts for them, and they loved me. And of course, I loved them. So I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have an issue with them per se.
Yeah.
I learned a lot. I learned a lot.
You just had to watch out for the stray bullets.
Well, funny enough,
Because the
the
fact
first
of the matter
time,
is that's a reality in
yes,
those
that's
places.
the reality. And the reality, a matter of fact, the first time I had to go flat on a floor was at that school. I remember these things, like, I remember the year,
Mm-hmm.
but to me, it was like a movie. I actually saw policemen running after the gunmen, and everybody had to go flat. And in that moment, I was like, Lord, what am I doing here? So, I got a little taste of that. I've gotten a taste of the
Yeah.
other part in terms of some of the parents not being so nice, you
Mm-hmm.
know, coming to school to beat off the teacher because what?
Yeah.
The star player, Charlie Smith is known for football. The
Yeah.
star player is not playing today because this teacher complained on him and whatever and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
So, That's the
Yes.
reality of teaching in an inner city. I've seen teachers come there for one day and not come back.
Just
You know,
quit
I've seen
that
so
same
much.
day. Yeah, because the reality of it is, even though you go to help, as you say, and you're really trying to see the humanity in the students and their family, the community members, and some of it, yes, their humanity is coming out, but the fact is, it's a risk. It's a very risky
It
situation.
is. It
And,
is.
and teaching in general is risky. I have
It
found.
is very risky. And the truth is, um, as a young mom with a promising future, I could understand why my family members did not want me to go there, you
Yes.
know. But when you also look at the compensation, is it worth it?
Hmm.
Even though when you work in those volatile areas, you do get what they call hazard pay, which
Oh,
really
really?
amounts to nothing.
I didn't know that though. You
Yes,
get
yes,
hazard
you do,
pay.
but it amounts to nothing. Yes,
Okay.
so there is a little compensation,
Hmm.
but that really amounts to nothing.
So you spent a year roughly at Charlie Smith,
Yes, a year and a half thereabouts.
a year and a half. Did you, after leaving Charlie Smith, did you immediately go into High Flyer? And I want you to tell me what is High Flyer and how did that come about?
No, I did not. So I am very artistic. Well, my family is like that because all my sisters, even though they are professionals, all of them, they have some who can bake, um, sew, do hair, something. So for me, I went into jewelry making. So I made jewelry for a year. I just wanted to rest, to navigate, just to see what it is that I really wanted to do thereafter. So I made jewelry for a year and actually had my jewelry in stores distributed through JBDC. So I had my earrings at the not at the airport. That's Norman Manley International Airport.
You know, I
And
would have loved to see samples of your jewelry though.
right,
Yeah, why didn't you send some pics of your jewelry? Well, continue.
my dear, I feel so old. I feel like I've done so many things. Sometimes you forget that part.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So continue about. So you were making jewelry
So I did that for a year.
for a year, and these were
Yeah.
available in stores.
So yeah, so and of course I was homeschooling my son while I was doing that.
Okay.
So after the year, because I'm from a rural area, um, today I had an interaction with a parent who needed to navigate her son's future in terms of what to do next because he did not get all of his CSEC subjects.
Mm-hmm.
So, being in a rural area, I thought that okay, I could do probably something in the evenings to offer CSEC subjects to persons who dropped out of school and persons who may not have the financial backing to come to Kingston to go to, an extension school. So I actually started doing that. So I started that in 2010 in Golden Spring. And Golden Spring is also in West Rural St. Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that. While doing that, I'm homeschooling my son. So of course my son would be at work with me. And I would also offer evening classes for students who, at the time, it was GSAT. And I remember how I got into homeschooling and segueing into High Flyer. I remember I had a student who attended a primary school in Kingston, and her father approached me in terms of doing homeschooling. So I said to him, no, I don't offer homeschooling to other parents. I only do homeschooling for myself.
Mm-hmm.
But she was having so much success in the evenings with me. So he asked me, because the issues he was having with her at school, I was not having those issues with her. So I said to him, the person you're describing at school, that's not the child I teach in the evenings. So
Yes.
because he saw how comfortable she was and basically the benefits and the results that she would get when she came to me, he just decided that, listen, whatever you are doing for your son, I want you to do it for my child. And that's
Yes.
how I got into homeschooling.
And is it the high flyer is an extension of the homeschool? Explain,
I'm sorry, I
explain.
didn't hear that.
No, I'm asking. So high flyer educational services. That's an extension of the homeschooling, or is it now? Has it now gone beyond homeschooling?
All right. So one of the things I tend to look at is my mandate. I'm a Christian. All of us have gifts and we need to use those gifts to serve people. So even though sometimes it's tempting because you do get other opportunities to expand, I stick to my homeschooling niche because that is where the Lord pointed me to, and that is where I am more comfortable to serve. Because the truth is, the homeschool niche is underserved. Not a lot of people understand the homeschool niche. COVID really put us on a world stage, so people understand who we are and what we're about. Um, but I primarily serve homeschoolers. That's my core niche. That's our core niche. But we do serve in terms of assisting students.
Okay, so we lost Imani. All right, let me see if she's okay. So
Yes,
you're back.
yes.
It's, yeah.
So
So you were saying,
our main target market or niche is homeschooling, but we do cater to students who go to regular school. So we offer alternative assistance.
and this is face to face, or is it online? What's the modality?
So long before COVID, we were doing online. That's another thing. Online presence is very important. When people see in Jamaica, they say the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So when people, and the truth is, we have more Jamaicans living outside of Jamaica than inside of Jamaica. So once you're an entrepreneur and you are inside Jamaica doing pioneering work, people in diaspora, they are noticing. They're going to take note. So my first international client came out of that, where someone reached out to me to assist their child online. So we ventured into catering to the diaspora online long before COVID. This was probably about 2015.
Wow. So that's 8 years.
Yes.
8 years ago. I know the term high flyer speaks for itself. It goes without saying, but I actually want you to tell me why you chose that name.
Um, in terms of doing business and choosing name is very important. You want a name that stands out, but you also want a name that is easy to remember and is meaningful.
Yes.
So when I went through that brainstorming period, I have had my little circle. I would feed them with different names, and of course, being a Jamaican and having locks, the first thing that came to some people's mind was weed, getting high. But a high here, we know that. So of course you're gonna have pros and cons to everything, right? So, but high flyer is an overachiever, somebody who strives for excellence, and that's just who I am as a person.
Absolutely.
I know nothing else but striving for excellence. I grew up in a house where remember, I'm the baby, so I watch my older siblings.
Yeah.
Probably about two or three of them have doctorates. Um, they're professionals in different industries. So all I know was excellence.
Right. You just that's all you know. And this is
That's all
something
I
I
know.
always say, be what you want your children to be. Let
Absolutely.
let your children see you reading, and they will just read. They'll just start
Yes.
reading, just as though they see you brush your teeth and they brush their teeth. So we
Want
have
to
to
see, want to
model.
do.
Yeah, we have to
Want
model
to see, want to do.
behavior
Yes. So
and
they,
achievement.
you have to model the behavior.
Yeah, we can't think to just be wanting to live vicariously through them and wanting them
Yes.
to finish up our goals for us.
Yes.
No,
Most
we have to
definitely.
still be at it. Yeah. How did
Most.
your experience at the Heart Trust NTA prepare you for what you find yourself doing now?
So actually, I started High Flyer. So I started actually when I started in 2010. I called it Gladstone Emmanuel Academy. So remember, I had told you that I wanted to pursue my law degree overseas. However, because I'm a Christian, I would say the Holy Spirit, kept on prompting me to come back home. And I'm happy I did. So in 2010, when I started, my dad became ill, I think the June. And by the December, we lost him. So that was very short and very quick. I started in 2010, October. And I remember when my father came um, to my business place in Golden Spring. Golden Spring is known for heated politics.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a JLP
Strong.
stronghold here in Jamaica.
Yeah.
And when he came there, he said to me, first of all, he didn't want me to go there. That's the first thing. But when he came on the premises, I can remember just seeing him walk around and feeling so proud,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that for me, I remember that every time when I'm making major decisions, I'm
Yeah.
guided by that.
And so I was asking about the Heart Trust NTA and how that prepared
Um,
you
for
to.
for Heart Trust, I started
And this
Heart
is
Trust in
Heart. Is this the Heart in that area in Stony Hill, or is
no. So this one was by Ashenheim Road. So that's in Kingston.
in Kingston? Okay.
That yes, and that too it's in the industrial belt, but it is also a volatile area. So I find myself serving a lot in those areas,
Yes.
right? Um, and sometimes it's not about what you want, it's really what you are made to do. So I don't fight things really. So because Stony Hill was near to my home, that would have been a preference, but that's not what God had intended. Um, so I didn't stop high flyer, but after my dad died in 2010, my mom died in 2011, the March, and I became very burdened emotionally. While I was running the business, I got an opportunity. I started my master's. When I started my master's in educational leadership, I didn't feel like this is what I wanted to do. So I stopped. And when I got the opportunity to teach at Heart Trust, usually I would bounce questions of my parents, especially my dad. So I'm a daddy's girl. I'm very close to my dad. So it was either continue with my full-time entrepreneurship or go and teach part-time. But what was offered to me was a full-time contract. So I actually negotiated my contract, told them that I do homeschooling, I homeschool my son and so forth. And I negotiated a 40 hours per week contract, going there only 4 days. And persons would ask me, when I got in and persons found out what type of country, remember this is before COVID, and
Yeah.
in Jamaica, even though we have flexi policies in a lot of workplaces, they are not executed and they're not offered to a lot of people. So I remember people asking, like, how come you only come here for 4 days? I said, that's what I negotiated. I homeschool. So
Mm-hmm.
I have to have at least one full day during the week for my son. And I stayed there until 2019. So
Okay.
it was good because I did both of them.
So, as an entrepreneurship and communications instructor, so you were doing what exactly?
So where I was teaching, we that is a part of the engineering cluster. So of course, I'm going to be a little flaw in the midst of a lot of I don't want to say thorns, but it's male dominated. When it
Yeah.
talk about engineering. So I was one of two communications instructor there. I also taught entrepreneurship on my last leg there. But wherever I go, it's not really about teaching a particular subject, but it is about teaching about life. So my introduction to every class sounds like this. Hi, I'm Jamelia Imani Blythe. I am a mother of one. I am a Christian. I don't believe in one income. It is not biblical. The Garden of Eden had four streams supplying it. You are males, therefore, you cannot wait every 28 days on a man to give you bread for you and your family. You are skilled, therefore, you must have something on the side.
Very powerful
So,
words. Did they
yes,
take
so
it to heart?
even of course, yes, yes. So even now, they would reach out to me. Those who are having children now, I teach some of their children now. If they need references, if they need guidance on anything, investments, things like that, because I talk a lot about that. So I don't really teach communications and entrepreneurship, really. I teach about life. And I'm not afraid to be vulnerable, talk about
Yes.
relationships, things like that.
Yes.
Because
And
remember,
that allows them to relate to you. You know?
absolutely, remember these are men. Probably you will have a one or two female in the classes, but predominantly it's an engineering school, so you're going to have mostly males. So I love teaching boys because they challenge you, so they make you a better educator. And of course, having a child, a male child myself, I know how to reach them. So I enjoyed my stay there.
Okay. And then the Jamaica Association of Homeschoolers, you are one of the charter members.
Yes.
What made you decide to launch that and, you know, rally
Um,
the fellow homeschoolers who were probably feeling isolated, probably feeling vulnerable themselves in this system where for years threats were being thrown out, and a lot of persons, even though they were passionate and confident about their homeschooling, they weren't confident about their place in the educational system. So what made you decide to rally the homeschoolers?
Again, remember I came into the homeschooling industry by probably default, because that was never my intention. That was never my intention. But um, there is an industry that it was not organized, right? You never had a business where you could call and get a homeschool tutor. So High Flyer Educational Services, we pioneered that. Am I the first to do that? No, I'm not the first educator to homeschool. I know a lot of educators who homeschooled before, but probably that was not their mandate. So as I said, we all have gifts, and the Lord gives us what would I say? Probably our mission according to what our giftings are.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that that was something that the Lord wanted me to do, organize a homeschool community.
And
And
how
how did
was
I
that
know?
worked out?
Yes. How did I know? One of the things I say to my mentees, when you know that you are operating in the space that you're meant to, one, it's natural for you. Two, help comes to you easily. So provisions are already made for you, right? So those are some of the things that you look for. You're going to have struggles, yes. Not everybody will agree with you, but not to the degree where you're not your feet are tied and you're not able to operate because you are graced to operate in that industry or in that capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Everything would have been prepared for you. You are just like Moses trying to get the people out of Egypt, really.
Okay. And you find what's has the association been able to accomplish?
Um, I must interject in terms of recognizing Barbara Blake Hannah. When I
Mm-hmm.
was homeschooling in the rural area with an only child, I felt isolated. The average rural person does not homeschool. I was the only one in my area that I knew of who was homeschooling. So I had to come to Kingston for everything. So I saw the need for us to, and being exposed to homeschooling overseas where, they have co-ops, they have sports day, everything is so organized. I'm like, we can do this. So I had bought Home the First School that's
Yes.
written by Baba Kano. So I
Mm-hmm.
bought that, reached out to her, and she assisted me in terms of writing persons who were homeschooling. So
Okay.
that's really how I started connecting the dots. And as they say, the rest is history.
Okay. I know that the Homeschool Association, well, during COVID, it hadn't, it had to go on pause, but I know that definitely the sports day, which it organizes, has been very helpful. Um, because sometimes when you homeschool, there are certain things that the children miss out on.
Yes,
It's good when they're able to participate in things like sports day and
yes,
outings, that they would
yes.
normally, because we all know the cliche, the socialization. That's the first thing. People do it without even thinking about it, right? But it's still, it's a consideration. So that's one of the things that I've loved about the Jamaica Association of Homeschoolers. The sports day. Um, I think I went on one outing with the organization, but stuff like that are important to me. Are you still with Jazz?
Okay, so I'm not a member. I'm not an executive member of JAS, but I'm still a member of JAS. Um, Everybody would have known that the Jamaica Teaching Council bill,
Mm-hmm.
we had to, of course, make our position heard. And I think it was last year, yes, last year, that we had to go to Parliament.
Yes.
Now, that's a big deal
Yes.
because I think it was 2013, I don't remember these very well. But when I started the online homeschool community for Jamaicans and people within the diaspora, Homeschool Jamaica. The year after, coincidentally, the Ministry of Education started having regular meetings with homeschoolers, and they also encouraged that we organize ourselves as an
Mm-hmm.
association rather than lobbying individually. So we
Right.
took that and rallied the homeschool community.
Okay.
So,
And I must say, I reached out to the panel who made that representation in Parliament. It was an amazing representation, in my opinion. clearly well thought out, well researched, and very passionate. And I really had to reach out to the members of that panel who went and represented the homeschool organization.
Yes.
Imani, what excites you most about what you do every day? What
Helping
excites you
people,
most?
helping. As I said, I grew up on that. The only thing I know is to serve. My mother is a servant, a public servant. My father is a public servant. Um, a number of my sisters are public servants. I think that's the only thing. As a Christian, I'm mandated to serve.
Mm.
So I love helping my clients.
And
It-
what would you
When
say? Sorry, go ahead. Go
when you
ahead.
look at the rate of autism right now, you have a lot of autistic children. You have a lot of children who are being diagnosed with ADHD. A lot of times they cannot fit into the regular traditional school system. They have to turn to homeschooling. I'm there to counsel, I'm there to guide, I'm there to provide alternatives that they did not know existed. So I love my job. I would not have had it any other way, even though my first love is law, but I see where I was needed and my voice needed to be heard.
Yes. And what would you say are some of the? Oh, we lost her again.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that
What
question.
would you say are some of the greatest challenges?
Can you repeat?
What would you say are some of the greatest challenges?
Um, in terms of doing business, homeschool perspective, mm,
You can break it down in
well,
terms of the entrepreneurship, in terms of the educator, in terms of the homeschool. Each one
mhm.
would have particular challenges.
As an entrepreneur, I'll speak to that first
Okay.
because I've always loved entrepreneurship. Since being a child, I remember being, of course, in a rural community, not a lot of people had refrigerator. So we would make ice and sell. I would make suck and sell. And then, when we graduated from suck to bag juice, and these are things that my parents facilitated that I didn't really recognize that, hey, they're actually accommodating my business skills. So from very early, my high school friends, they will tell you, I always knew you would work for yourself because I always said it during high school. I don't want to work for anybody. So I'm just manifesting what I knew I wanted. It's very challenging. People management is not easy because you have different personalities. So not everybody can mobilize a community. Not everybody can manage a team and manage it well. So you have to be willing to learn. To be a good leader, you must learn from them. You must include them. So I'm very inclusive and I have an open door policy. Anybody can speak to me if they have an issue. So people management, that's not very easy because remember, we all have different beliefs. We all come from different backgrounds. But again, coming from a large family, it helps me to deal with different personalities because probably I have one in my family.
And as an educator, what's the greatest challenge?
Um, as an educator, just the system overall. Clearly, if I did not see something wrong with it, I would not homeschool my son as an educator. And that has always been a question. How come you're a teacher and your son in a school? That's something I've had to defend over and over and over. So clearly, something is wrong with the system. How it is structured, it doesn't benefit my people. And when I say my people, in terms of the majority of Jamaicans are Black. We have African descendants. So how the curriculum is outlined, it doesn't really benefit my people per se. So I have to know that I have to teach the curriculum, but I also have to educate them about life. There is a balance. So I always make the distinction. This is what I have to teach you, but this is the reality. And I think that makes me stand out because I am very authentic, I'm very realistic, and I don't withhold information from my students.
Right. And that is so important because while we have to teach them the history as is, we also have to remember that they are going to be sitting exams, they are going to be doing things that they have to stick to the book just as a
Yes.
practicality, but you
Yes.
also have to let them be aware of what the truth is and what
Yes.
their position has been and is and will be. I know that you're in the process of going for your law degree, so you haven't yet gone into practice. But
Yes.
can you anticipate what some of those challenges will be when you actually start to practice?
Well, all entrepreneurs know that you must have an exit plan. That's something that, when you're writing a business plan, you should have. And if you're an entrepreneur and you don't have that, you need to put that in. So for me, I've already um, put someone in place, or not me. God has already ordained someone because the truth is, as a Christian, I'm guided by those principles. So I don't make decisions on my own because there are certain factors that I don't control. For example, I knew something like COVID was going to happen, but I never thought that it would have happened in my lifetime. Because in 2019, while working at the trust, in Jamaica, we said Chinese, but these are Chinese Jamaicans. I remember he came to me, his name is Mr. Lin, and he's an older man, and he came to me one evening while I was working on the evening shift. He came to me and he said to me, Miss Blythe, and this is not somebody who I would have a conversation with regularly. For some reason, he came to me and he said, Miss Blythe, he who foresees rules. And when I sat back down at my desk, I said, Lord, why did he say that to me? What does that mean? And it came to me that people are going to need homeschooling. So he allowed me to start, organizing and mobilizing because this is something that is going to be very much needed in the near future. That was 2019. COVID happened 2020. So I was
Actually,
prepared
the
for
late
COVID.
part of 2019.
Actually, the late part of 2019. So correct.
Right.
So, and this happened before I exited my job. So he told me this, I left in May. He told me this about February 2019. So I knew something was coming, but I never thought it would have been in my lifetime. So I knew I needed to go back into full-time entrepreneurship to organize the business, mobilize, and get things sorted out.
Have you thought about or have you decided on what aspect of law you would like to practice?
Um,
Would you like me to repeat that question? Can you hear me?
are you hearing a feedback?
No, I'm hearing you well now. Would you like me to
Okay.
repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Okay. Have you thought about or have you decided on what aspect of law you will practice?
Um, I find myself into advocacy a lot, you know, but I do like intellectual property.
Yes.
I do like intellectual property, so I'm not sure, but I know advocacy seems to be calling my name a lot. And one of my lecturers even pointed that out to me that I'm probably suited
Yes.
for that. based on the topics I tend to choose when I'm doing presentations and things like that, and my position on certain things.
So you like to speak on behalf of the persons who are not in the position to speak up for themselves, and you like
Absolutely.
to ensure that other people's rights are granted, which is very
Mhm.
noble. Because you wear so many hats, so this question you're going to have to split it as we've been doing, because you wear so many hats. So I'm asking, what are some of the common misconceptions you think people have about entrepreneurs, educators, and lawyers? So you have to split it, and as you
Um, so as I'll start with the last one. People think that because you want to be a lawyer, then you have to tell lies. It's all about being a
yes,
liar. It's not a lawyer.
that's
You want to
definitely
be a liar, right? But I would oftentimes educate people on what exactly the law is. It's really not about what they perceive, but what the law says. And the better lawyer who knows how to research and use the law to his or her advantage, then that's a winner. So people need to understand it's not about telling lies, it's using the very laws.
and they tend to think that it's only criminal law that exists, because when
Yes,
people
that's
say
another
that, I
thing.
think they're mainly talking about criminal law and the fact that you're
That's
going to
another,
be
yes.
representing someone who might very
Yes.
well be a criminal, right? But in representing the guilty person, you basically have to tell a lie. That's where it's coming from. But it's
Yeah.
important for you to educate persons
Hmm.
on, as you say, what is the law, and the fact that if you are willing and able to do that kind of research and to represent your clients, then you don't need to lie.
Hmm.
And there are there's many different types
Of
of
law that you can
law.
pursue. Exactly. I mean, criminal is not something I ever thought of. Criminal is not something that aligns with what who I am as a person, right?
Right.
So, as I said, human rights or probably something in intellectual property or real estate. I don't know, but
Which
I,
one you
I'll
want to answer next in
in
terms of
terms
the
of
misconception?
entrepreneurship,
Yeah,
um,
misconceptions.
that it is okay. So you have to have money. So because you're doing business, you must have millions. So people tend to come to you for a loan all the time. Like, I have a lot of things to do, and not because you see somebody with a business, a storefront, it means that income is coming in.
Yeah.
When I started, there are days when I didn't make any money, but I stuck to it.
Yes.
So you have to be willing to put the work in to the point where you become the go-to person so you can make the money.
From your
And that is,
experience, go ahead,
go
please.
ahead.
From
No, go
your
ahead.
experience, how long does it normally take for the business to turn over to the point where you actually start making some real profits?
Well, it depends on the industry. So I mentor Christian entrepreneurs. These are entrepreneurs who are Christian or kingdom persons and they are starting a business. So most of the businesses that there are 15 of them that I mentor now. Some of them they're in the ideation stage. Some of them they have been doing business for over 5 years. But one of the things I always say to them is this: you will make money faster than I ever did, because I never had a prototype here in Jamaica to go to and to look for. And it was very difficult to get a mentor here. That's another episode about sharing information. I share. So um, you will make less mistakes because I'm willing to share. I don't hold back.
Right.
So for a lot of my mentees, they are making their targets every month. They're making their
And
targets.
I'm going to want you to give me your contact so that if anyone wants your mentorship in terms of business guidance, so they can reach out to you. But let's finish up this particular question. So,
As
the
an
common
educator.
misconceptions of the educator.
Um, well, that teachers not get paid, so teachers are not properly remunerated. I agree, but if you own the school, if you own the modality, then you
Mhm.
dictate how you are compensated.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right. So, is this something you would recommend to your nieces and nephews and the little ones coming up, and they say, I want to be a teacher, I want to be a lawyer? Clearly, you would recommend for the entrepreneur, but would
Yes.
you recommend that, knowing how difficult it is and the kind of mindset that you have to have, would you recommend that your nieces and nephews go into education or go into law?
Um, Most definitely, I would recommend law. A matter of fact, one of the things we have to look at as building generational wealth, you must identify someone who will take on the baton. That's what wealthy people do. So even though I'm still in school, I have started looking within my family to say, okay, which one will I mentor as a lawyer when I start practicing?
Okay.
That's what other people do. You have to pass the baton on. As an
Mm-hmm.
educator, the same thing. I know my son is not interested in running high flyer. He has said it many, many times. Um, who can I look at to see how they're interested in this field and ensure that they are properly remunerated so they are not going to be stuck at a level that dictates them not being properly remunerated. So you are going to be a starving, a struggling teacher. Teachers are known to live at the credit union for loans. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Yeah.
That's a thing about teachers. And that's a truth, that's a reality, because I know many of them. So my job is to ensure that I teach my nephews and my niece. Well, I have one niece, but um, just my family members, cousins, whoever it is. And of course, people in my community. You have to own. The Jews are ruling because they own. Ownership is the name of the game. So if
Absolutely.
you're going to be a teacher, you need to own a school so you can navigate your income. You don't wait every 30, 25 days, 28 days for somebody to compensate you. And if it is that you want to go into the system to get the experience, because it has its place, I learned a lot
Mm-hmm.
from those two places of employment. I learned a lot what to do and what not to do in my business. And that is why High Flyer is growing and we are here because I went to the abyss and I survived. So use those as lessons. Go, and there are things that when you go into the system, you become tougher.
Mm-hmm.
You see a lot of things that you will not see in a private setting, much less a homeschool setting.
Yeah.
So it has its place. Get the experience. I have teachers now. I sit and do career planning with them. Okay, you're going to stay in the system these number of years so that you're going to be pensionable. You're going to do your tutoring on the side. You're going to do this. You're going to do put the money. I help teachers who they want to leave, but they want to secure a pension, right?
Yes.
I was never interested in running high flyer. I was never interested in running right now as it is, the Pensions Act, it needs to be reviewed. It needs to be reviewed. I say this because I had a personal encounter. When my mother died, she worked for the government for over 40 years. When she retired, She also went back to work. So when my father died, I think it takes about 6 months for the other party to receive your pension. My
Oh.
father died, and my mother died about 2 months after.
Mm.
So when I look at the collective pension for both of them, that's just for the government.
Yes.
We didn't benefit.
I see
We
what you
didn't
mean.
benefit. My
Yeah.
mother walked through murky river water to deliver people for free. She climbed hills and valleys in West Rural St. Andrew for free to deliver people. And
Mm.
she did not really live very long to benefit.
Enjoy the
No.
benefits.
Did
Yes.
she have a dependent? Yes, she had a dependent. Was the dependent under 18? No, the dependent was not under 18. That dependent was my grandmother. She outlived her daughter. My grandmother died about probably 2 years after at 94.
Mm.
When I made, as a prospective lawyer, making my checks and all these things, I was told that the only way you can receive pension being a dependent, you have to be under the age of 18. So I turned to the lady and I said, Mom, are you telling me that if my grandmother did not have grand grandchildren who are taking care of her, she would have to go to the poorhouse? And she chuckled. She chuckled. So if my grandmother did not have grandchildren to take care of her after my mother died, what would have happened? That's so unfair. That's not a just system. Where's the justice in that?
I definitely see the point that you're making, and these are the kinds of changes that need to be made, as you say. These are the kinds of archaic laws that are still on the books that definitely need revision. Um,
Most
but
definitely.
yeah, yes, it absolutely does. I'm going to, I want you to give me your details so I can put it up on the screen.
I'm sorry, I'm not hearing that question.
No, I want you to give me your details.
Okay, so you can follow me on all socials at Tutor Boss Imani,
All
and
right, so
you can follow
tutor
High Flyer at
boss.
on all socials at High Flyer EDU. So we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, Twitter, recently TikTok for High Flyer business
Just a minute,
purposes.
Imani. The tutor boss
Personally, I
Imani.
am on.
Just a minute. The tutor boss Imani. That's no space, right? No space.
Pardon?
No space.
No space, no space.
And
Tutor
the
Boss Imani. No
high
space.
flyer. So that's high flyer what?
EDU.
EDU. Okay. You want to leave a number?
No space.
You want to leave a contact number or email?
So you can always WhatsApp us at 876-797-7352 if you want to get to me.
Let me make sure I have that. So 876 797 7352.
797
Mm-hmm.
7352. So that number takes you
All right. So that's the inform. Hold on. What did I do here? Hold on. Hold on. I need to make some corrections here.
Yes, you're
It's
important.
high flyer. High flyer. Edu.
Yes, you're back.
Yeah. All right. Did I get it right?
Yes.
All right. So Right. So if you want to be a part of the mentorship that Imani offers, if you want advice in terms of entrepreneurship, you definitely can reach out to her. So you can call or you can send her a WhatsApp message and reach out to her. All right, Imani, in wrapping up, is there anything that you'd want to add? Any piece of advice you'd want to give to our viewers?
Kamal, yesterday the CXC results came out. And
Yes.
of course, as an educator, you're going to be getting a lot of calls. Now, for us, all my students got their passes. So that's 100% pass rate. May not be the grade that you wanted, but they passed nonetheless. You have to put the work in. You have to put the work in. Usually, what I do, I would put a grade beside each student before the result comes out based on their work ethics. Yes, prayer is good, but faith without works is dead.
Yeah,
You have to
definitely
put the
have to
work
put in the
in.
work.
There is a balance. So I want to speak to those parents. You have to remember you don't live your life through your children. There are alternatives. There are many programs that are available now that was not available during my time. Take advantage of those free programs. Let me add it, free. The government may have a lot of programs, but I think the information in terms of disseminating the information is very poor. So a lot of people don't know that these things are in existence. So as
Yes.
educators, we have to arm ourselves with the um, information so we can give it out. But to the parents, go easy, sit down, speak to them, get into the habit of checking in and writing a plan. Too often, we're just going to school, doing CXCs, and we're just doing things for doing sake because this is what you do. Sit down, write a plan. Have you ever sat down with your child and written a plan? A lot of parents, they have never done that. To my parents who are considering homeschooling, we have different ways of homeschooling. Do your research. You can always call, reach out to me. I do free consultations. I don't charge. Um, you have a community now in Jamaica. You're not alone. It's not like when I was homeschooling, I had to go try to rally a community because I'm alone. We have an association in place with capable people. Um, Reach out to them. So I'd want to also include that information that you can reach out to Jamaica Association of Homeschoolers at
Schoolers.
gmail.com.
Okay.
All
And
right.
or on
And
Facebook, right?
or on Facebook,
Yes.
Instagram as well. And to persons who are thinking about entrepreneurship is not easy. What you see on Instagram, it's not really reality. We have good days, we have bad days. More bad days than good. But if you stick to it, if you develop a structure, a system, eventually you're going to have more good days than bad.
Yes.
I'm a living witness.
Yes. Absolutely. I'm so happy that you found the time to come and share all of this with us, Imani, wearing so many hats and wearing them so well together in one outfit. I
My
want to thank you again for
teeth
coming.
outfit.
Huh?